Want to know how to get rid of that mommy tummy once and for all? Hi, I'm Polly. I'm a pelvic floor physical therapist and founder of No Kegels University. I have been working in the clinic with thousands of women for over 13 years, helping them not only with their pelvic floor after having baby, but helping them with their core after baby. And in today's video, I want to tell you a few things that you can start doing today and right now, even as you are watching this video, of how you can get rid of that mommy tummy or that mommy pooch. First, I want you to think with me for a moment of everything that lives inside your belly. You have a lot of organs. You have your uterus, you have your intestines, you have your gallbladder, you have your liver, you have your kidneys. There are so many organs that live inside that belly. But when we are pregnant, our baby, I don't know if you've ever seen those cartoons before or the animations that as that baby grows, baby smashes all of those organs and all of your guts up and then down as baby is growing, which is supposed to be the way that it should be happening because we want baby to grow. But where people miss this, how to get rid of that mommy tummy, is we just assume, oh, I'm fat, I have all this extra skin. And yes, we might have extra skin, and that part we don't actually have a say over because we don't always have a say over how much weight we gain. But yes, that belly did expand and come back. And so if there is extra skin or the appearance of that skin looks a little different, it expanded to a very large capacity and then it returned. To some degree, we can't really affect that skin, but that mommy tummy or that mom pooch that we still feel like we look pregnant can be solved in a couple of different ways. So like I'm saying, if you think about everything that's in our guts or that's in our belly, and as that baby grows, what happens is that after that baby is delivered, nobody really goes back in there to say, okay, did all the guts return where they're supposed to? Because depending on how much weight you gained, depending on how your baby sat and lived inside your abdomen, in your womb, depending on your birth story, depending on how you had to push or how baby came out, it is not uncommon for our guts to remain in the positions that they were when baby was inside. I know that sounds kind of weird, but what I've noticed is that when our guts are stuck in one place for any length of time, they almost create that pregnancy look still. And the one thing we do know about our guts is that they're supposed to slide and glide. And so doing a soft belly massage to your guts, I'm talking soft, you're not pushing too hard, you're not creating pain, you're not doing any damage, just a very gentle belly massage to coax those organs to slide and glide on top of each other can go so far. I can't tell you how many times I've had a patient on the table and I have done, now there is a technique that you can go have done by a professional. It's called visceral mobilization. It really is an incredible manual technique. It's hard to do on your own, so I wouldn't recommend you doing that, but you can always find somebody who is well trained and well versed in it. But doing a gentle massage to get those guts moving, it will allow them to not be so stuck and remain in that position, that pregnant belly, that mommy pooch position, and sit back inside of your pelvic cavity and inside your abdomen, not sitting outside creating that mommy pooch or that mommy tummy that we so desperately want to get rid of. I can't tell you, man, I wish I could just show you, to be quite honest, how often, how quick we can change or lessen that mommy tummy by just encouraging those guts to move. So this is something you can try at home, but also going to have some visceral mobilization done can be very helpful. This can be done by a pelvic floor therapist as long as they're trained in it. Not all pelvic floor PTs know how to do this. There are some massage therapists that are trained in visceral mobilization. And my favorite is from Baral Institute or the Institute of Physical Art. If they're trained from either of those institutions, I think they do an amazing job. Now, the second thing I want you to think about in getting rid of that mommy tummy is balloon breathing. Now, I've talked about this before in other videos. I've done podcasts on this before as well. But I want you to think about this with me for a moment. Like I said, our guts are stuck. And one of the things that we should do naturally and physiologically with ease and with comfort is when we inhale, our lungs expand with air, our diaphragm descends, our guts move downward, down into that pelvic floor. We should feel our belly blow up like a balloon, and then we should then start to feel our pelvic floor drop or descend. But if you remember what I said with the first tip, that our guts are stuck, by coaxing our balloon breathing to happen, because it should be happening, then we could assume that if our guts are stuck, that our ability to balloon breathe, which is a natural and physiological way of breathing, it's how we should always breathe, but if there is some dysfunction, if something is not moving like it's supposed to inside our belly, our guts, because they're supposed to slide and glide, then us being able to do this natural and physiological thing of breathing, I like to call it balloon breathing, you'll see why here in a moment, but as we're doing that, that will help coax our guts to move. And a lot of times after you work on those guts and you follow it up with balloon breathing, that will help to get rid of some of that stuckness, where those guts are almost looks like they're not sitting outside your body, but that's where that pooch, that roundness in the lower front of your belly is coming from. But if we can encourage that balloon breathing to happen, then that should help support those guts to go back inside that abdominal cavity and sitting down inside our pelvic cavity, not being held or stuck in the positions that they were when we were pregnant. So briefly, and I'll attach a guided balloon breathing training in the show notes, so be sure to look at that. That's free for you. But I like to think of it as balloon breathing because as we inhale, what should be happening is our lungs should fill with air. The diaphragm should drop in response to the lungs filling with air. As that diaphragm drops, that's now a change in pressure, a change in volume, and so those guts should move downward. And as those guts are moving downward, our muscles, assuming they're soft and supple, they should move downward as well. When we exhale, and all this is happening very passively, very naturally, at ease, as we exhale, our lungs are going to deflate, our diaphragm is going to rise again, our guts are going to move upwards, right? Because we want that sliding and gliding. And of course that pelvic floor is going to come along. I like to call it balloon breathing because while there's so many different ways to teach this, I also think it's important to realize that none of this should be forced. It should be easy. I like to think of balloon breathing when it's done right and done correctly without any issues, that a lot of it it reminds me of waves on a beach, right? If you've ever seen waves on a beach, whether it's in real life or a movie or a show, the waves gently come up the sand and then they come back down the sand. It's very easy, it's very fluid, but when I've seen people try to do balloon breathing, sometimes they might push their belly up and then they might tighten their muscles when that pelvic floor is supposed to be rising. And that is where it's not natural and physiological, right? Like you shouldn't have to work hard to breathe, but when you're doing balloon breathing, it should be natural and easy unless there is some dysfunction or some problems. The other piece I want to impress upon your mind is that many of you have probably never held an organ before, or cadaver organ or what have you. I was able to dissect a cadaver in physical therapy school, and when I went to my visceral training class, we were very lucky to be able to work with cadavers as like a prerequisite before we got to do our visceral mobilization training, which was really incredible. And the one thing I remember, we had to do lots of different activities and steps and homework inside the cadaver lab then, was that how slick the viscera, which is the covering of the organs, are. And so one of the games that we had to play, if you will, was we were handed stomach guts, if you will, the liver, the kidneys, the intestines, and we had to, it was just like in a pile, and we had to reconstruct how that looked. I know this is weird. I hope this is not making you queasy. But as we were doing that, my job was to hand them the next thing. That was my job. And then my partner, he would put it down where it needed to be. So my job was to come up with the next. And the thing that I noticed, it was so interesting that as I was holding on to that organ, it reminded me of that game. You'll know what I'm talking about, but it's that, it's like a plastic thing. It typically has like sparkles in it or a color. And as you hold it, it folds in on itself. So you're trying to like go hand over hand to hold on to this toy. And that's how the organs were. They were so slick. And I remember thinking when I back into class the next day when we were working on our partners, it really impressed upon my mind that, okay, here I am holding this viscera. It's not even getting blood flow anymore, but it's still so slick. Now I'm working on this living body and their guts, like they're not moving very well. They were stuck. And my patient had 4 pregnancies. And so that was a lot of stuck guts, as I like to call it here in the clinic. And so I tell you this story, hopefully not to gross you out. Hopefully I haven't lost you. If you've stayed this long, thank you. But I tell you this to really help you illustrate this is how the body should be working. And so when we get stuck, when we're having a hard time with our balloon breathing, when we're noticing that I'm standing there and I have this pooch and it's not skin, it very well could be your organs that are pushing or being stuck and held outside like they were when you were pregnant, because baby smashed your organs and your guts all in different ways. Now, the other thing that I want to point out here as well is that there can be other reasons why you still have that mommy pooch. And while I will say there's a lot of women who like to blame this on their diastasis, typically their diastasis is higher. Typically, it's different in each woman. It could be underneath our rib cage. It could be at our belly button. It could be lower. But typically, where our diastasis is, it doesn't always correlate with where that mommy pooch or where that mommy tummy is, which is okay. What I want you to know is that I want you to think back to when you were pregnant. From at your belly button down to your pubic bone, that was probably the largest part of your belly. Do you remember? And most of the time, we just kind of let that belly sit there. And if you think about when I talked about that balloon breathing, how this is a natural and physiological thing for our belly to gently blow up and then gently to deflate, our abdominal muscles, one of their jobs is that it expands and then it returns. But when we're pregnant, that section of our abdominal muscles from at our belly button down all the way to our pubic bone, it's almost like a shelf. It has not been given input that it needs to expand and return and expand and return like it needed to. And oftentimes, getting that balloon breathing back in play gives input into those muscles to start doing their job. Now, before your brain goes down the road of, oh yes, I just need to spot train, I need to train my core, train my core, train my core, that is what's going to get rid of my mommy tummy. That is not true at all. We cannot spot train. We cannot spot strengthen. It doesn't work that way. But what I'll tell you is once those abdominal muscles, that rectus abdominis, starts expanding and returning, you'll notice that your core will start to get stronger. Assuming that you're already doing core exercises appropriately, of course. You'll notice that with that balloon breathing, with that expanding, your balloon breathing will get easier, but also when you're doing these core exercises, you'll notice, man, my core really turns on fast. It turns on quick. I almost feel like I did before I had kids. That is your core doing what it's supposed to. So to some degree, that lower section of your belly was dormant. And that's the last tip I want to provide you here to get rid of that mommy tummy, is to realize that lower section of your belly was dormant. We need to get it working again. We need it to do what it should be doing naturally and physiologically, and that's expanding with our breath or inhale and then deflating, right? That balloon is going to expand, it's going to deflate or inflate and deflate. That's a natural and physiological process that gets put on hold or gets put into dormancy during our pregnancy. And so another reason that we could have that mommy tummy or that mommy pooch is because those lower muscles don't have a job. And I'll tell you that doing certain exercises or doing crunches or whatever, that may not be the thing that helps turn it back on and get it out of its dormancy. doing that balloon breathing, because that's a natural and physiological and such a passive thing that our body should be doing, you'll be surprised. I've never had anyone say, oh yes, I expected this. Everyone is always greatly surprised at how much bang for their time they get for that balloon breathing, how much it solves. It helps with your pelvic floor. It helps with your diastasis. It's been proven to help lessen that gap, but also it can really help with the appearance of that mommy tummy, because again, that mommy tummy is not always in direct correlation to your diastasis. With that, I'd like to invite you to join No Kegels University Sorority. It's a free group where I do trainings and I do challenges and I offer pelvic floor exercise ideas and core strengthening ideas, and it's free to you, and I would love you to come join. The last thing I would like to invite you to is to go take a look at my program, Diastasis Recti 101. It's an online program where I walk you through some of those rules, but so many more, where you can design a program that's specific to you and your body and your story. I'll also give you several trainings on the diastasis and core, so you know exactly what you're looking for in a particular exercise. I'm going to give you more exercises to choose from throughout your journey, but you'll be able to use those rules and guidelines that I will have taught you to help decide if that's the best fit for you. If you've been around for any length of time, you know that I don't think that there is a one-size-fits-all program, and that's why this program, you get to decide, using some of these rules and guidelines, what is going to be the best thing for you. And my most favorite part of this program is I'm giving you one of the formulas that I use to create all the core exercises and abdominal strengthening exercises that I use in the clinic and that I use with my coaching clients. And with that, the sky is the limit, where you can take this information and really run with it. And if you are just confused and you're not sure if this is going to be a good fit, or you need help with something else, be sure to schedule a Your Pelvic Floor and Core's Next Step call with me. And with that, remember, you're an heiress and a queen and everything in between. See you in the next one.